Hey, friend. Welcome to the Hearts Hello Show. This is a space where we stop pretending everything is fine and start telling the truth about what it actually takes to grow. Because the reality is, life will stretch you. It will challenge your mindset, test your character, and reveal the places where what you say you believe and how you actually live don't always match. And that's where the real work begins. So here we talk about authenticity, faith, personal responsibility, relationships, and the internal alignment required to become who you were created to be. So wherever you are right now, take a breath, slow down, and let's have the conversation your heart has been waiting for. Hey. See, last week we started talking about human compliance. We talked about what it is and why it matters. But as I sat with that conversation throughout the week, I realized something. Sometimes we got to go back to the basics because before we can understand why we do what we do, before we can understand why we stay stuck in patterns we say we want to leave, before we can understand why we keep making decisions that move us further and further away from the life that we say that we want, we have to go back to the beginning. Back to the ABCs, the one, two, threes. No, I'm not talking about the behavior, not the habit, not the direction, to the identity. And not in a way that people talk about identity. Because if we're honest, we've heard that conversation 1,000 times. Who are you? Know your worth. You're enough. You're that girl. Walk in purpose. And while all of those things may be true, I think we've skipped over something that is much deeper. See, I think the better question is, who taught you who to be? Yeah, I'm going to pause for a second and let you sit with that. Who taught you who to be? Because most of us are not operating from identity. We're operating from instruction. See, somewhere along the way, life taught us something. Maybe it was our parents, school, church, relationships. Maybe it was rejection, success, failure, maybe even survival. But something happened that taught us who we needed to become in order to be accepted and loved, protected, valued, included, or even safe. And over time, those lessons stopped feeling like lessons and they started feeling like us. And that's where human compliance begins. It doesn't begin with the behavior, it begins with the identity because behavior is simply the evidence of what we believe. And if I believe my worth comes from what I produce, guess what? I'll struggle to rest. If I believe love must be earned, then I'll constantly perform. If I believe conflict is dangerous, guess what? I'll avoid those difficult conversations. If I believe my voice doesn't matter, I'll remain silent when I should speak. See, the behavior is not the issue, it's the belief underneath it. And the belief underneath it usually traces back to something that taught us who we needed to become. See, this is why so many people struggle when life changes, because many of us have attached our identity to roles. It could be the role of a wife, a mother, a business owner, a manager, an entrepreneur, the strong one, the responsible one, the fixer, the caretaker. See, those aren't identities. Those are functions. Those are roles. Those are assignments. And when we confuse the role with the person, every transition feels like an identity crisis. If a layoff happens, a divorce happens, when the kids grow up, the business changes, the dream shifts, and suddenly we're left asking questions we should have asked years ago. Not because life changed, but because we never separated who we are from what we do. See, the truth is that many of us are living from a version of ourselves that was created to survive. Some learned that we had to be perfect. Some learned that they needed to stay small. Some learned that they had to be successful or agreeable or that they had to be independent. See, some learned that they had to carry everybody else's burdens, or that they had to become whatever was needed in the room. And after enough repetition, guess what? Those survival strategies became the identity. Then we stopped questioning them. We simply complied with them. Think about it. Some of the biggest decisions in your life may not be from who you are. They may be coming from who you learn to become. And that's dangerous. Because if the wrong version of you is driving, it doesn't matter how good the strategy is, the destination will always be off. It's like putting the wrong location into a GPS. The directions may be accurate, but they're taking you somewhere you've never intended to go. And I think this is where so many people are stuck because they're trying to change habits without examining the belief. They're trying to change outcomes without examining the identity. They're trying to build a new life on an old foundation. But eventually, every goal runs into the foundation it was built on, which is why awareness comes before transformation. See, you cannot heal what you have not identified. You cannot challenge what you have not acknowledged, and you cannot transform a self you have not traced. That's the work. Not becoming someone new, it's understanding who has been running the show all along. My therapist used to say this: who's driving your bus, Kiana? Is it 5-year-old Kiana? Is it middle school Kiana? Who is driving? And you have to understand that. And that's why this week's human compliance check is different. See, I'm not asking you to fix anything. I'm not asking you to become anything. I'm not asking you to create a vision board or set goals or reinvent yourself. I'm asking you to become a student of yourself. So for the next 7 days, every time you make a significant decision, I want you to ask one question. Who made that decision? Not your name, not your title, not your role, the version of you. Did I stay quiet because I was being wise, or because the version of me that fears conflict showed up? Did I say yes because I genuinely wanted to, or because the version of me that needs approval took over? Did I procrastinate because I needed rest, or because the version of me that fears failure delayed action? Did I overwork because I was committed, or because the version of me believes my worth is tied to productivity? Did I pull away because I needed space, or because maybe the version of me that fears being hurt was driving? I want you to write it down. And once you've written it down, I need you to create 4 columns. The first column is situation. What happened? The second column, my response. What did I do? The third column is the version. Who showed up? Was it the people pleaser, the performer, the perfectionist, the peacemaker, the caretaker, the controller, the achiever, the avoider, the protector, the prover? Who showed up? And the final column is the cost. What did it cost you? Did it cost you peace, authenticity, time, energy, money, opportunity, connection? What was the cost? Because here's what I've learned. Most people think compliance is following someone else's instructions. But some of the deepest forms of compliance have nothing to do with the other person. It's the rules you've accepted, the stories you've inherited, the identities you've adopted, the beliefs you stopped questioning, the version of yourself you've been obeying for years without realizing it. See, that's human compliance. And that's where the work begins. So this week, don't try to fix yourself. Don't try to or reinvent yourself. Don't try to become somebody new. Just pay attention. Because before we can talk about where you're going, we have to understand who's been driving. And before we can talk about transformation, we have to identify the version of you that's currently in charge. So for the next 7 days, become a student of yourself. And next week, we'll talk about what happens when you decide that version no longer gets to drive the bus. So until then, pay attention. See, the answers are already there. You've just been moving too fast to notice them. Before you go, sit with this for a moment. Growth doesn't happen because we heard something inspiring. Growth happens when we become honest enough to examine how we're actually showing up in our lives. So take what resonated with you today, reflect on it, and decide what alignment looks like for you. And if this conversation helped you see something differently, share the episode with someone who might need it too. And if you want to stay connected, you can always find me at the Heart's Hello. Until next time, friend, keep choosing truth, keep doing the work, and keep saying hello to your heart.